Hello, welcome everybody. We're going to do a quick video as part of some information videos that Grasstech are doing for 2023. This video is really focusing on the breeding season for 2023. It's effectively a countdown to the breeding season from now until then. Breeding season is only about 8 weeks away for your typical block calving, spring calving grass-based system. We're here in March. It's the first week of March. We're conscious it's a very, very busy time on farms. There's a lot of calves being born, a lot of calves to be fed, and the focus is on calving, but fairly soon that the focus needs to shift towards the breeding season as well. It's probably safe to say that a lot of people have already selected their bulls for the 2023 breeding season, but maybe a lot have not yet. And so again, maybe the focus needs to shift towards the selection of bulls if that's not already done. We're aware we're involved in a lot of livestock trading as well, and the sale and the export of stock. And when we're viewing a lot of stock on farm, it's highly likely we'll actually bump into a lot of the AI companies or their representatives on farm as well. It's a busy time for them as well, getting orders in. And so this video is a kind of a quick run through probably the options that are out there in terms of bull selection and so on, and maybe the best way to go forward for the season ahead. I'm joined on my left there by Andrew Deneen. Andrew is our resident genetic expert, and Andrew, of course, is spearheading our herd builder service, which is giving independent advice and independent advice and consultancy to farmers in terms of their breeding strategy on farm. Andrew is farming himself in Kilnamatra. Busy time, Andrew, for you. How's calving going?
Good. Calving's good. Weather's been exceptional there. So look, we have them out there, which is always a bonus there at this time of the year, full time. So things are going okay. Yeah.
Is getting them out grazing is taking the pressure off the yard.
Oh yeah, hugely so. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Look, everybody's doing the same. So I think everyone's happy with the weather.
Good.
Bit of a change coming there, but we need that too to stimulate grass growth. So look, it's been one of the better springs, so far.
So we're only about 8 weeks from the breeding season. Is it a part of the year you look forward to?
I suppose, I suppose I do, because in our own situation there, look, we actually end up picking our bulls very early on in the year, and maybe even at the back of end of last year, to get the best genetics, to see what's available, or maybe the sex semen there, which is, which is improving all the time, and you get superior genetics there now with sex semen, but it's limited, so you have to be there. So we put in our orders in my own situation there, and other farmers as well in our own group. They put in their orders fairly early. So it's a guess, to be thinking about breeding before the cows even calve. But sometimes to get the best, you have to do that. And look, if all you need to do is book them. If we change your mind, you change your mind. But
okay.
Yeah.
The important thing is to get in early, I suppose, is to do your homework early and get your order in.
Exactly. No. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So look, I suppose maybe the question is in a segment like this, where to begin? Where do we begin in terms of talking about bulls or bull selection, or what to be focusing on? And I suppose one of the main sources of information is obviously the ICBF website. And within that, then, of course, you have the active bull list, which lists all the bulls that are available for selection. So that, I suppose, that's what's up on the screen there at the moment. And I suppose just maybe to open the discussion on it, you probably see there it's ranked on. These are the bulls that are available that are ranked on EBI. And I suppose just to open the discussion. Like, where does EBI now, where does it fall in your selection process? Like, the industry has relied on it and it has worked well within the industry, but is it still the main currency out there in terms of breeding and breeding genetics for the industry, or should the industry be looking a bit further? What's your view on it?
Look, I'm out, there's no exact index there that's going to be bulletproof or going to be exact, because even at the moment there, the environment is different. So, meaning, milk processing costs, energy costs, milk price and all that. So like, you know, you could be changing the formula of the EBI every couple of months, but you know, you really can't do that because you'll probably end up going back to where you started anyway, do you know what I mean, when things come up and back down again. So look, the EBI is the number one index that, or figure that we look at there when we're picking. It's all driven in relation to the EBI. But I would be saying there that there's so many, the EBI is one figure, but not to be looking at the EBI on singly, is to look within the EBI, you know, whether it being reliability or fertility or you know, calving, beef, whatever the case may be there, production there. So it is a figure that's very important, but the biggest problem is that people don't look within that figure. And in some cases, the highest EBI bull mightn't be the right bull for some farmers. You know, maybe to move down a little bit there, you might get a more balanced bull. And I suppose with herd builders, it's all about analysing the genetics in their own herd, you know, to pick. So I would say that the EBI is still the main driving force in relation to bull choice.
Okay.
But the biggest problem is that people just don't look within it. And look, I think we'll be looking at something going forward there, Noel, to explain the reason, you know.
Yeah. So here, you, in fairness, you've done a bit of homework into looking at some of the top bulls within the EBI index there, and I suppose really what we have here is just three bulls, practically the same EBI, 339, 340, and 340. But then, as you say, they're differing in their characteristics within the sub-indexes. Is that fair?
Yeah. So I suppose, look, you know, what they're saying there is that, look, if we use these bulls, you know, on average, you know, by the bottom there, they have 340 EBI, but they deliver totally different things in relation to what, you know, within the sub-indexes there. So, like, you can see they're all genomic, their reliability is 64%, and each of these sub-indexes there are the same. They're, whatever we call it, 60, or the reliability on the health and the management and maintenance and all that. They've all different reliabilities. Some of the indexes have higher reliabilities, some of them have lower. But like you can see here, even the milk. So like, we look at the monetary value here is 340 on average. And then, but look at the milk, you know, it's ranging from 37, minus 37, minus 66, and 140, and the kgs of fat, and like even the protein there, you know, at 0.2 versus 0.16. And look, these are really good figures. But they're delivering something totally different there, like 140 for milk, minus 66 from one extreme to the other. You know, the health, you know, -2, which I'd be very careful, especially with herd sizes getting bigger. You know, the health figure I would like always to see positive. You know what I mean? And maintenance, then look, there's a bit of a difference here between the size of the animals in these three bulls. And look, but you see, they all have the same EBI. And you know, like the calving there as well. You know, there's a slight variation. Like, and the carbon, so we've -1 here for carbon. So like, you know, this has a high carbon footprint versus the top bull here that, you know, has a good carbon footprint. And then, you know, you have the fertility. Now these fertilities there, you know, they're you know, the reliability is low on the fertility in genomics there, because they're genomics. And you know, when maybe the milk sub-index there would have a higher reliability there. So like this, so there's huge variations there. The milk sub-index 77 versus 131, you know, and like, you know, is this 140 milk there, so brings that up milk sub-index a bit higher. But then maybe, is this the right bull then if we're in the say if we're in band 3, you know, for in relation to the new banding system, that's going out. So like, they've all the same EBI, but what they deliver is very different from each other. And I think that's what, now, I suppose they put the EBI there for us to say that this is the monetary value of these bulls. So they say, look, we're not going to complicate it for you. We're just going to give you a figure here. we're going to do all the work here for you, and that's the figure. But I think that people need to educate themselves more here, because if they start looking at these figures as a group, but they're getting big differences here through the three sires, which I think mightn't maybe complement their own herd.
Okay.
And I feel really strongly about that. And I think that's why picking bulls there solely in EBI, can be, if we pick enough of them, you'll get it, but you can have really a lot of inconsistencies there. And look, I suppose we need consistent herds, and we need consistency within herds, especially more so now than ever.
Okay, so just on the, I suppose one figure that's sticking out to me there, and maybe you can explain it, just the introduction of the carbon subindex in the last, just before the last intake, or the last index run, it was back in probably December or January or so.
Yeah.
What do you see as being the significant aspect of the carbon subindex? How's the EBI overall changed, or has it changed much in the context of the carbon being introduced, different weightings in the beef subindex? How is that? What has happened in that regard?
Yeah, I suppose, look, they're putting more emphasis there on the carcass beef value there, they're trying to get probably slightly bigger animal there, so that these animals will have higher carcass weight there when they come to age, so, but then, that's positive there for the beef farmer, and look, they need to, make a living, and they need to have good stock off that. But then, on the reverse side of that, and this is a typical example there, is that, when you have milk production there with reasonably good percentages here, but what's driving this for minus carbon here, really is actually this figure.
Yeah.
So, it's showing that, 9, is it's a maintenance figure there, meaning that this animal, so the lower the maintenance figure, the heavier the animal. So people kind of get confused about that. So the lower the maintenance figure, the heavier the animal, and the higher the maintenance figure, the lighter the animal. So it's adding EBI or adding EBIs onto your animal. Okay. So when it's going up, so you can see, for argument's sake, there, that the carbon here, or the maintenance is 18, and the carbon is 21. So the lighter animals are more efficient in relation to carbon. But as a carcass beef value, then, for argument's sake, more than likely that this animal there would have a higher carcass weight, their offspring there going forward.
Okay, so is it fair to say that probably after the last index run, that there probably hasn't been too much re-ranking, given that
there hasn't been any re-ranking on anything, so I think there should be a base change, because especially with the banding coming in, and we'll talk about that later. Okay. There, but there hasn't been any real base change, as far as I know, only in relation to the carbon. But what the carbon has done is it has highlighted, and look, in your co-op performance report now in your EBI, there's a carbon index there as well with a star rating. So look, you could have some really efficient, really good bulls, and there is a few of them out there, but their efficiency in relation to carbon isn't good. Okay. So look, I think it's an index that you have to look at, and obviously the higher that carbon figure is, the more positive it is in relation to reducing carbon, so it is adding on to your EBI again, like the maintenance, the lighter the animal. Look, a good bull and everything there, but look, there's a fault here in relation to carbon, and there's a fault here in relation to health. And look, whether these are going to come true or not, only time will tell. Yeah. But as for what we see at the moment, that is the case. But look, these are 3 great bulls. But you just have to look within the EBI,
Okay, so you've mentioned about banding, okay? And again, just to explain, I suppose most people we think within the industry know about it, but again, just to explain what's happening here with regard to banding. Yeah,
I think, look, in fairness to Grass Tech, they mentioned it there about a year ago now at this stage, one of the first to come out with it. And, little did we know that it was coming in so quick and so fast, and now it's in there. So I suppose the biggest problem is there is whether people agree with it or disagree with it. It's there, and we have to get on with it. Like, so, look, it's saying there that, you know, under 5,500 kgs there, you've 80 kgs of organic nitrogen per cow, and then from 4.5 up to 6, you've 92. And I said, this is the problem. Now, not many people land in this category there, but look, a lot of farmers do at the same time. Like, so most farms are in the middle category here of about 70%. So and then you roughly, you know, you've probably 20% on this and maybe 15% or something in the lower one. Now, this is the problem here. Like, when you're you know, if we're in derogation and, you know, you've this, you know, 220 there. So what we're finding out is that people actually need more land now, because this has gone from, I think, to 89 up to 106, and they need more land to carry more or less the same cows.
Okay.
So I suppose with herb builders and with proper soil selection there, what we're saying is that, you know, look, you can still produce the same kgs of milk solids and stay underneath this.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and the slides going forward will show us that can be done.
And in fairness, again, you've looked at a couple of bulls, or you picked out 3 bulls with the same milk sub-index, which is effectively kilos of milk solids output, but then showing that they're differing considerably in the makeup of that milk sub-index. Is that right?
Yes.
Which has an effect, which relates back to this bending issue again. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose banding, and look, I suppose it's about banding, but I suppose the most important thing there regarding everything we speak about today is the efficiency and profitability for farmers in their own business.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the most important thing. That's what farming's all about. You know, as if we can, you know, do the same and get more, and that's what genetics is. You know, so look, we picked 3 bulls, and to just show you there, you know, like again, the 3 bulls prior, 340 EBI. You know, I just went with the milk sub-index there. I didn't want to complicate it anymore. So the milk sub-index is a standalone index. So what it says is that these 3 bulls, their milk sub-index is 105. So, like, what does 105 mean there? So 105 is kind of a monetary value there. And so, in other words, what it means is that with this milk and these percentages, it creates so many kgs of protein, so many kgs of fat, and that's the total combined kgs. Yeah. So what it says is that the current market values and the current, you know, environment out there, that it's 105 that animal is valued at in relation to milk sub-index. But they're all valued at 105, but they're all doing completely, totally different things. So if we look at this animal, for argument's sake, he is 420 for milk, you know, and then you have the extreme of minus 221. Now, like, that's 640 kgs of milk in the difference, which is absolutely huge. You multiply that by 2, then, you know, to give it to your onto your cow. So, like, they're all 105 milk sub-index, but they're delivering totally different, completely different things to on farm. And that's the slight worry for me, is that if we were in a banding system that we've looked at, like, and you use this bull, because you look at the EBI and you take it as a whole, that the EBI is such a figure, and you use the milk sub-index, that's pushing that EBI, but then you use this bull, you know, poor percentages of protein, poor percentages of fat, and our target for fat and protein to be 0.3 for fat and 0.2 for protein to deliver 9% solids. And you can argue and say to yourself, look, but you're not making any sense here, because this bull is 39 kgs of solids and these have 29. But the milk sub-index states that they're all the same, because that's the formula there that works in relation to the milk sub-index. So all these animals have the same milk sub-index, so they're the same profitability, all of them, but they're delivering in different ways. And I question the delivery of the top bull in the current market at the moment. And it's a debate that not many people talk about, but with banding in at the moment and milk processing costs Like the milk processing costs in Dairy Gold is 11 cent a litre at the moment, but the farmers are paying 4 cent a litre. Now, how long is that going to last? I don't know. No, maybe energy costs are coming back a little bit there. But like, back again to, and I keep repeating myself, they've all the same milk sub-index. You know, and like, to me, that these is where you should be, because, you know, just because you've 39 kgs of milk solids doesn't mean that that animal is more profitable because the milk sub-index states that it isn't. So, to me, it's probably this bull would probably be the best in relation to it, or this bull. Because, you know, what people don't realise is that a 0.0 milk kgs PTA, that animal will, in good management systems, will deliver over 6,500 kgs of milk in her third lactation. So she's going to shove you into the higher banding. And then people are terrified then to use a minus. But if we can use a minus, like the kgs of milk solids are the same for both of these. But look at the difference.
It's, so, again, maybe just in conclusion of this, like if you're already at, going back to the banding slide that we had a minute ago, if you're already at 6,300, 6,400 litres, you're in band 2, you're okay, you're at the lower organic nitrogen limit or amount. Selecting bulls like this one could, across the herd, could pitch you a step too far in terms of that banding. And you've gone into band 3, it's a stocking rate issue.
Like, you know, it could shove you in, but it's going to do a lot more than that as well. Like, it's going to, you know, you probably end up going to have, like, you know, I guarantee you that and we haven't shown here, the maintenance index for this animal is way higher than any of these two. So you have an animal that's throwing out more milk, will probably have poor fertility, will probably be heavier, more than likely have higher intakes. You need more grass to feed her. That will push you into the higher band. That will have higher processing costs, because we know that the milk sub-index is the same for all of them. Do you know? So,
no, good points. Probably a good opportunity maybe just to take a break for 30 seconds. See you in a minute. So welcome back. Again, just to give a little bit background, Andrew, what you're doing with the Herd Builder service. So again, it's an independent service giving independent, I suppose, breeding advice to farmers in Ireland mostly. Just maybe to explain a bit more what you're doing with that.
I suppose we come on farm. I suppose, look, obviously the farmers look for help because they're, you know, maybe not happy with the way their herd have evolved there, or maybe the genetics in their herd for one reason or the other. And we just come in and we analyse the herd, you know, the young stock, the young calf heifers, you know, like at this stage of the year, you know, picking, you know, the right genetics, making sure the right genetics is going into the, and like, as you can see there with all the bulls there, you know, like, you know, I've been asked, what bulls would you pick, what bulls would you use? And like, you know, I don't really pick bulls we sit on unless, you know, we actually analyse the herd, because it's like, you know, you don't know where you're going unless you analyse the herd, because you don't know where the herd is. So like it's critical there. Like, we had 3 bulls there that delivered 3 different things, and it's the same with herds. You know, there's a lot of stock in herds there. You know, some better than others, and you know, there's a lot of different choices there that, you know, need to be made, you know, in different groups there, like the 3 bulls there with 3 different EBIs, but they delivered so much. And I think that's what herd builders, you know, they make that transition there of analysing the stock and improving the genetics of the herd there, you know, just to make the farm more profitable there and more future-proof going forward. Like.
Okay. So you mentioned the word profitability is key, obviously,
It's everything, you know.
within the farm. And I'm sure there's a huge range out there between farms who are doing things right from a management point of view, from a breeding point of view, and highly profitable. And equally, then I suppose there's a lot that aren't. Of those that aren't, what? Can you put your finger on probably the main problems that are out there from a genetics point of view, or probably production stroke genetics point of view?
Yeah, look, I you know, I'm just looking at the grass tech behind me, and I see the grass, painted in green, and like, you know, like the grass is the number one thing first of all. Like, I know we're on about genetics, so every time I go to a farm, I say it's the grass. Yeah, the three most important things on a farm is grass, grass, and grass.
All right. Yeah.
And then the genetics follow the grass.
Okay.
Like, so to me, I'm passionate about genetics, but the grass is the main driving force in any farm, and then the genetics will follow. So they complement each other hugely. So to me, grass is number one, genetics is number two, even though I'm passionate about genetics. But I like in Chagas, for years ago, we were talking about grass until we were nearly green in the heads ourselves. And 20 years, 25 years later, like, nothing has changed. It's more important now than it ever was. Like, and I commend Chagas there, for all the work that they've done. In fairness to them, and the pressure they put, and Grass Tech there to drive grass measuring there going forward. So it's huge. And look, I like the genetics, but grass is key. So then, coming back to the genetics there, I suppose the biggest is just, picking bulls there without not really focusing on their own, how would you say, their own poor indexes there that they have in their herd, whether it be fat or protein or fertility and things like that. And I suppose there's one thing there that probably did stand out really, when I did go to herds there, is probably the size of the cow. It'd be one. They just got a little bit big and a little bit leggy. Now, look, that's again about picking the bulls, and there's variation in it. So they might have the same EBIs, but they deliver something different. And probably one of the things that stood out the most is the fat percentages in a lot of the herds. Really, really poor. And it probably was down to when quotas were there that we were penalised for fat.
Yeah.
Now they bred the fat out of the animals, and the problem is now they're trying to breed the fat back in again, and it's taking time. Like, but probably the number one would be the really poor fat percentages in herds, because a lot of the herds, if they had decent fat percentages, they could produce 50 or 60 kgs of extra milk solids by just producing the same amount of milk.
Okay.
Because their fat percentages are so poor.
Okay, so the question is, once you identify the problem, is how to improve it.
Genetics, I suppose, look, and I think you put something up there, Noel, there, that we've looked at there, and if you want to talk about that or elaborate
so
it. Noel?
I suppose to explain the listings that are up there, we looked at the top 30 active bulls on the active bull list, and when I say top 30, that's based on EBI, and then looked at the top 8 bulls, specifically on on fat percentage. Okay, so they are the top 8 bulls within the top 30 EBI bulls for fat percentage. And within the top 30 EBI bulls, these are the bottom 8 or 9 bulls for fat percentage. And so even though all of these bulls have over 340 EBI, I suppose what this is showing is that there's still a massive range within this top 30 bulls for fat percentage. So if fat is a problem on your farm, Andrew, I suppose the conclusion we're coming to here, just to explain the figures on the right, on my left there, if fat is a problem, well then you should be selecting bulls here from in the top of the list for that trait. Equally, maybe avoiding the bulls in the bottom of the list for that trait if you truly want to improve that trait.
Yeah.
And you can explain the significance of it then.
Well, exactly. Yeah, no, that's well pointed out there, Noel. And look, a lot of it is like the three bulls with the 105 mil sub-index there. It's something kind of similar there looking within the bulls, like, and you can see here, the average here is 0.34, for these bulls. And look, like protein, in most cases, you know, if we bring the protein, you bring the fat, and if we bring the fat, you bring the protein. And, you know, it kind of shows it here, because we only did this just for fat percentages on its own, but you can see it's after carrying the protein as well. So, like, you know, it's the EBI is nearly the same in all of them, more or less, but the percentages of fat, and 0.34 equates to 5.27 fat percent, and 0.19 equates to 4.0. So then if you kind of stick with DBI and lose focus of maybe the specific traits that you need within farm, you could end up there maybe, you know, down here where it's 0.15 for fat percent, which is 4.52, and 0.12, which is 3.82. And I suppose one thing I'd like to mention there is that if your fat is low and you're using these bulls at 0.15, and you'll say, look, that's giving me 4.52 fat percent, so that's not bad. But what you probably end up going to be putting these 0.15 on an animal that's maybe 0.02. Now that's going to do absolutely nothing for you, you know, so it's not going to bring those lower fat bulls up. But at least if you go up here and you'll use the same at 0.02, now you've 0.36, and then you half that then, and you do more or less here than at 4.52. So, like, you know, your team of bulls might average here, but you have to realise there that there's a lot of cows below that, you know, and you know, your average might be here, but there's a lot of cows below that, and you know, you need to, you know, like, you need to be pushing it for 0.3 minimum for fat and 0.2 for protein, especially the environment and the banding that's coming in now. It's more important now than ever.
Yeah, and equally, maybe not going into too much detail, but you might argue, when you're looking at a herd, you might argue that there's those cows that are really low for really important traits, maybe like fat or protein percentage in their PTAs. You might question, well, maybe you shouldn't be breeding a dairy bull to that. Maybe that's a cow that should get a beef bull, maybe.
Yeah. Like, you know, if genetics were so quick, you know, we could change our herd by using all these bulls there in over 4 or 5 years. But it's not that easy, like, you know, some of these will drop, you know, some of these, you know, look, you know, whether they'll increase or not, I'm not 100% sure, but you can be guaranteed some of them are going to drop, like, you know, and like, EBI is there a long time now, like, and you know, the herd average in relation to EBI, country average, is still poor. Now that could be down to a lot of stock bulls being used and things like that, you know what I mean? So, look, it's not an exact science, do you know what I mean? But, you know, you just have to look within the EBI. It's very important to look within the EBI, because there's 8 more indexes there, so make yourself familiar with those.
You mentioned as well, what you're finding out there is probably a worrying trend, that herd size and live weight is getting heavier, which means the average maintenance figure is getting smaller as well. And again, probably similar analysis. We just looked again at the top 30 bulls, active bulls on the active bull list, based on EBI, and looked how the maintenance sub-index differed for those who are in the top 8 for maintenance sub-index, and those in the bottom 8 for maintenance sub-index within the top 30 bulls in EBI. So again, maybe Andrew, just to explain how they differ.
Yeah, so look, like, I suppose back again, if you think about, it's a bit confusing with the maintenance there, but the higher the number, you're adding on to your EBI, so you're improving your EBI. So that means that it's the lighter the animal. So this is the lightest animal in this case, and this is the heaviest, even though all these are in the light category. And this is the heaviest down here at 0. So we looked at, you know, I suppose, and look, you know, there's a lot, energy costs and fertilizer costs have gone huge, and the EBI hasn't changed over the last 2 or 3 years. So, like, it's more costly now to feed an animal now than it was two years ago. But the EBI actually hasn't kind of evolved to change and factor that in. So, because I don't think there's been any base change there. So, like, the maintenance there, so the amount of, like, maintenance there is that, you know, the higher the maintenance in an animal, the more efficient the animal is and she's rewarded, and the low, the heavier. So, for argument's sake, look, this is at 0 here, so this animal there will be 640 kgs. So on average, these top average at 501 and the bottom average at 600. So that's 100 kgs extra live weight in the farm. And if we're carrying 200 cows, and you add 100 kgs for those 200 cows, like, that's a lot of extra weight on the farm, and that's a lot of extra feed that actually, and potentially these will probably eat about 3 kgs of dry matter extra a day. And like, that's a lot when you add it up
when
over
they're milking.
When they're milking, so it's a lot. It's a lot. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you could be talking potentially maybe around 18, a good production, 16 to 18 probably there, and with these heavier ones there, you could be talking up to 23. So
When they're at peak.
When they're at peak, yeah. So it's a lot of extra feed, and some of it might come into the form of bought-in feed in relation to, ration or whatever the case may be, or maybe silage you don't have, like so. And, in a lot of cases they'll deliver the same in relation to the milk output.
I suppose the one figure there that's sticking out to me in the bottom right-hand corner is zero maintenance. A bull with a zero maintenance sub-index equates to what kind of live weight?
641 kgs.
640 kilos.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a fair difference there. And you can go I suppose if we're looking at, this is the thing about, analysing the data there, like, if you have a small cow, you can put this animal into it, and if you have a big cow, you can put this animal into it. And, what you're doing then is, maybe you're increasing if your animal is too small, and you're decreasing. But, you're not going to see that when you look here.
Yes.
But you will see it when you look here, and it can be a little bit daunting and maybe a little bit complicated there, you know what I mean? But look, I think if you get someone that knows the formula in relation to DBI, or else maybe just educate yourself a little bit more to just get that expertise in there to improve your own herd.
Yeah, I suppose the other thing I'm seeing from this is that I suppose maybe the Jersey or the crossbred was assumed to be the real driver of a high maintenance figure or a low live weight.
Yeah.
And the nice thing you can see about this is that, yes, I suppose the two top bulls are Jersey bulls, but equally the next, 5 or 6 bulls here are black and whites.
Yeah.
So you can still drive, you can still maintain your black and white herd and still drive a fairly high maintenance sub-index, which is lowering the live weight.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I think it's, it's only with the last year or two, and through the genomics there now, and look, genomics is very important, and look, we have to keep using genomic bulls there, even though there's a risk involved in them. But look, you're going to get rewarded with that risk, and you're probably going to get maybe penalised with that risk as well, But the black and whites they're coming to the fore in relation to percentages there, which is great to see there because it's so important.
Okay, so maybe a final point we wanted to cover, and I think it's a perennial discussion point within discussion groups, and probably will continue to be.
Yeah.
And it's the whole debate about using daughter-proven bulls versus genomic bulls. So where do you stand on that one?
Look, I suppose, the data proven, I suppose, is you get what what's there, and there's that bit of reliability and that bit of comfort in it, and there's that bit of, I suppose, risk and reward with the genomics there, and look, I suppose you should use a bit both, really, to be honest. Obviously more genomics but look, I'd really look within the genomics there, and I'd probably look at all the indexes there, but I'd look at the pedigree of the genomics. Okay. And if the percentages or fertility or whatever, if it isn't in the sire, in relation to, we're on about the genomic bull, if it isn't in the sire, his sire, and if it isn't in his dam, in relation to percentages of fat, protein, the fertility there, it's very hard to see whether it's going to be in that genomic bull or not. And so look, I'd like to see it in the dam and the sire side, when I do it. So if I look at genomic bulls there, I look at that factor there, that I go back to the old-fashioned way a little bit, just to make sure that it's in the dam and the sire side, to carry those solids there, so that they're there, you know, and you'll be hoping then that, you know, that soil will come through in relation to that.
So that's a little bit, it's obviously good advice. It's a kind of a cross-check. You're not totally depending on the index or the sub-index.
Yeah, there's something behind it, you know, like
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
says there, you know, like, oh, you know, at least there's something behind that. Do you know what I mean? It's a figure of speech, and I think it's the same. And, you know, look, you know, then you have the problem then with genomics and genomics.
Okay.
You know, so like there's bulls out there at the moment there, you know, a couple of our clients there that I did, so they were asking about bull selection there, and I said, do you realise that this bull is a genomic and a genomic? So there's a risk with a genomic, and there's a bigger risk with a genomic and a genomic. And I don't care what anyone says, you know, that is the case. Do you know what I mean? And like when you are picking genomics, like your genomic bull should be about 80 or 90 euros higher than your daughter-proven bull. And we were on about that earlier on. So that if the genomic does fall, at least he have a good way to go before he lands at where the daughter-proven is. So look, I wouldn't be, if we give a daughter-proven bull with a high EBI, if that genomic bull is only 20 or 30 EBI points above that daughter-proven, I'd be very slow on using that genomic bull. Because if it falls, the risk was better with the black and white, or sorry, with the daughter-proven bull, you know, than the genomic, because there isn't much of a gap between both of them. So it's, you know, go up high with the genomics if we're going to go with genomic at all.
Okay.
You know, at least you'll be prepared for the fall.
Okay. Yeah.
If it falls.
Yeah.
Or goes up.
It's safe to say, or it's fair to say that the industry needs a certain amount of genomic bulls.
Oh yeah, they're our future.
Yeah.
They're our future.
Because otherwise we can't test bulls.
We're all sceptical of genomics there, and it's improving, and it will improve, and it'll get more reliable there, you know, and you know, look, we don't have a future if we don't trust in genomics, and if we don't, that's as simple as that, like, really, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot for this video. I think the one thing that resonates with me that you, and I know that you, when you visit your clients at herd builders, is you keep saying that is it breeding or genetics is permanent.
Yes.
So the decisions, it's fair to say that the decisions that they will make, that farmers will make in terms of their breeding, what bulls they choose, what cows they use them on, have a permanent effect on the herd going forward. So it's just important that they make the right decisions.
Yeah, and like I think it has a bigger effect now than ever before. Solely because of the banding, and the cost of maintaining these cows is higher than it ever was before.
Okay.
And I suppose there's less room now, you know, for carrying these poor performing animals around, because they're costing an absolute fortune to keep. So you might as well keep a good one.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, okay. I think that wraps it up, folks. For this video, at least. Again, look, I know you can reach us on all the normal social media platforms, on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. So that's it. Thanks very much, Andrew.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you again soon. Thank you.